Hello everyone, I'm Grandmaster Priyadharshan Kannappan and welcome back to another episode of Checkmates in Chess. So we've been covering the various squares and how checkmates happen on the squares. We started with the A1 square and now we are on A3 square. We didn't come like A1, A2, A3. We came from A1 to all the way to H1 and H2 to A2 and now we are on the A3 square and this episode is titled the Admirable A3 square. Before we go into the various examples that I've chosen for you to solve, first we should be looking at the solution for the puzzle that I gave you at the end of the video for the A2 square video. And if you're a new subscriber to the channel or watching for the first time, this is a series of videos and we are going to be covering all the 64 squares on the chessboard and how, checkmates happen on those squares. So it's kind of like a fun way for you to practice various checkmates and different ways you can kind of learn forcing moves and attacking the opponent king if it's castle or on castle. So it's a good example for you, or a good kind of you'll have a lot of learning from these videos. And with that saying, let me jump into the example, the first one. So this is from the previous episode you would have seen, and it's black to play, and it's actually checkmate in A2 square, as it was the puzzle that I'd given for the audience to solve from the previous video. If you look at it, black has a very aggressive attacking position. I mean, look at the queen, look at the rook, very, aggressive stance they are in. And black continues with this aggressive play. And the key way of continuing aggression is to spot forcing moves. The most forcing moves, or obviously the check, will always be the number one forcing move because it forces your opponent king to make some sort of a reaction to it. Then comes captures, then comes threats, and sometimes it's pawn breaks. And if you can combine check and a capture together, it's like a double, like 2x the force of forcing move. And that's what black does here, as black starts with rook takes a3 check. White has to take b takes a3, right? Because if king b1, it's just a very simple checkmate on a1. So rook a3, b takes a3, queen takes a3 check, king b1, and now this rook joins the attack, rook a6. And it's like virtually an unstoppable mate coming up on a1 or a2. White goes c4, hoping to clear an escape square, but it's queen a2 and it's game over. So now let's move on to the topic of this particular episode, which is the checkmates that happen on the a3 square. So the first example we have, black has an extra piece, the white king is kind of cornered on a4, and there is some sort of a mating net woven already around the white king. And how did black finish off? If you're still figuring out the checkmate, I would highly suggest you pause the video and calculate the complete checkmate all the way till the end of the checkmate. Always never end a variation calculating only like the first move. Try to calculate as much in depth as possible, and I hope you have figured out what is the checkmate by now. So let me go ahead and reveal the answer. So black starts with bishop c2 check. And this leaves white with only one escape square for now, which is the b4 square, and that's what white does with king b4. Then comes the next check, which is knight c6 check. And with this check, now this square is open for the white king to walk into. But after king b5 comes knight a3 check. And now the king is checkmated, as there is no escape square for the white king. So let's move on to the next example that I have for you. This position is black to play and slightly more trickier, I would say, than the previous example. But again, forcing move is the key point of all these examples. And also a point to note is, if it's white to play, white has some big ideas. White may even consider sacrificing the rook on h6 and trying to break open and attack the black king. So black has to act very quick, very fast, and black finds a fantastic way to kind of get a checkmate in this position, and I hope you have figured it out by now. And that is, black starts with queen takes b2, and that's like a queen sacrifice, a very forcing move, like sacrifice. First of all, like if you had seen the previous example, I did tell you a check and capture together combined is like a very, very deadly weapon if it works. And if it's with a queen, it's like the ultimate deadly weapon. It's like, you are like going with all your forces and attacking the opponent's pieces, like the queen. And white has to take the queen. I mean, there's no other option. And then comes this nice little check, knight c4 and not knight d3. This will not reach our objective that we want, which is to checkmate the white king. But knight c4 helps us to reach the objective because after knight c4, it's a double check as the bishop and the knight are checking the white king. And white has only one escape square, which is king b1. And here, is it knight d2 or is it knight a3? If you go knight d2, it's a big blunder because there is a rook sitting on h2, which would capture rook takes d2. So instead, you would just simply go knight a3, and here the king is under check, and it's a checkmate as this bishop is controlling this very key diagonal and stopping all the escape squares of the white king. So let us move on to the next example. So this is white to play. And if you had seen the previous videos, you would know how the positions generally get progressively, tougher to solve. So if you solve the previous one in like, let's say 1 minute, this may take you 1.5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes. And some of you may be able to get it faster than the previous puzzle, but generally this puzzle is tougher than the previous one that you just solved. So it's white to play. And again, looks like both the sides are going after their kings, right? Look at King H1, a very, very precarious situation because there's a queen like standing right in front of the king, basically, only with a bishop in between. And so white has to act really quick. If you give even one move for black, black will just play bishop g3 check or bishop g1 check and go queen h2 checkmate the next move. So black is ready for checkmate, but unfortunately it's white's turn to move and white has a killer blow on, prepared. And I hope you have figured it out by now. So let me go ahead and reveal the answer, and that is another queen sacrifice like the previous example, and that starts with queen takes f7 check. And here, king f7, you have to capture the queen. I mean, your opponent, if he gives a queen, why not to capture it? Now comes the new queen into the attack. Not the new queen, the queen was already there, but this is like the second queen, as white had two queens on the board. Queen f5 with a check. And here, there are quite a few moves for the black king, I would say. Like maybe he could go king g8. If king g8 though, then the problem is bishop c4. And after king h8, it is queen takes f8 and it is checkmate. And for queen f5, king e7 is another escape square, and that's what black played in the game. So we will be seeing that move soon. Before that, I'll complete the moves that could have been played but was not really played. One of the options is like going king e8. So king e8 would lead to bishop b5 check, and the king would have to move somewhere, and then the f8 knight would drop and it would lead to a checkmate. And one option could be queen f6, but queen f6, and I believe white would be very happy with this move because now the queen on h4, which was doing a very aggressive role, would not be doing it anymore. White can like try to go for checkmate, or white can even capture queen g4, or white can even just simply exchange the queens. As white has a huge material advantage, white should be able to convert this position. The other option for black would be to cover with knight f6, and this is also not something really great, I would say, because again, white can start with bishop c4 check, and let's say if bishop c4, if something like king e7, and white can cover this critical h file with queen h3. This is a very important move that was possible because the knight moved from g4 to f6, and now the white king is kind of very safe on h1. So let's get back to the game. And after queen f5, black went king e7, and I'm sure you would have guessed by now what is the move. It is knight d5 check. And after king d6, what is the topic of this episode? It is the checkmate that happens on the a3 square. So that's what white does here with a nice little check with the bishop on b2. So if you look at it, all the white pieces are contributing in one way or another to this checkmate. Bishop e3, and it's a checkmate, and it's game over. So let's move on to the next position that I have here. This is, let me flip the board first. And if you look at it, it's white to play, but not like white is going to checkmate the black king or anything, because white's actually only having one rook. Black has a rook and knight, and rook and knight versus rook is a very tricky endgame. I mean, it's in most positions it's a draw because the rook and knight is generally not enough material to checkmate the king against a opponent having a rook. But in some exceptions, if the side which only has a rook gets kind of tangled in a mating net, then it's like, it's bad news, right? And this is, I believe, one such kind of position. And I will give you the puzzle after king a7. Look at the position here, and here it is black to play. And how can black kind of beat the mating net completely and checkmate the white king? And I'm pretty sure I've guessed the final move of this puzzle would be rook to a3 coming there with a check. I know white has some options. White can try to distract the black pieces with the rook sacrifice or so, but generally, try to kind of see what you would play and how you would try to checkmate the white king here in a7. So that's the puzzle I'm giving you all of you to solve as the homework for this video. So signing off is Grandmaster Priyadharshan Kannappan. Look out for all the videos that we are posting on a regular basis. And also, if you have any ideas on what videos you would like to see, please post that on the comment section. We would really love to take your feedback and give content that you find like useful for you to learn. Bye bye everyone. Signing off Priyadarshan, and you're watching the Gyaan channel. Bye bye.